Yes, guys, welcome back to Chasing Green Arrows. We are here on Friday afternoon previewing game week 5. Hello to all the chasers and hello to early riser in San Diego, Mr. Dean Jones. Dean, how are you, mate?
I'm okay, mate. Yeah, 6 a.m. here. Got up at 5, mate, to try and look less bleary-eyed. I don't think it's worked.
What time does the sunrise in San Diego, by the way? Is it like 7 a.m. sunrise?
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, about 7 a.m. Usually. It's been a bit cooler here recently, mate, so it hasn't been super hot. We've had a couple of cloudy days, which is quite nice, to be honest.
Watch out for the tan.
Yeah, I know, mate. Yeah, I've had a cup of tea a couple of days in the afternoon, just getting back to old English ways.
It's the first time I've seen you in a hoodie in a very long time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I threw it on this morning. I was like, oh, a bit chilly in here. But mate, obviously I haven't really seen the injury news, so I'm interested to know from you straight away. Like Isak, Pedro, like what are we looking at on this Friday?
Yeah, it looks like, Eddie Howe has been typically coy on Isak, and Big Man's going to be in the house very shortly, guys, so stay tuned for that. Pedro has trained, but the manager says it's sort of he's not going to risk him. But he said that last week, and he said that for the cup game. So Pedro does play Sunday, and the other big one is Ollie Watkins. He has been pictured in training, blurred in the background, but they're his boots, and it looks like his sort of side profile. I'm 99% sure I've seen a photo which I've retweeted of Ollie Watkins. I've even checked the boots he wore on Tuesday, the same boots he wore in training on Thursday. I think Watkins is trained. Diogo Jota's, I guess, the other one. There's like a lot of talk from Liverpool predictors going Darwin's going to get a start.
Right, okay.
Anfield Express. For me, Jota's going to start because Darwin will play the Wednesday night EFL Cup game against West Ham. That's the Darwin game. And I think we'll just see 60 Jota, 30 Darwin. But, what's your take with the whole Liverpool number 9 situation? Because Jota's played well enough, I think, to keep the spot.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I'll be honest. Like, I'm thinking of signing Gakpo.
I think he starts too on the left, right? He was amazing against Milan.
I thought he played a really good game against AC Milan. And I'm looking at my team. A few of our elite members will know this because I was chatting about it yesterday. I was very tempted to free hit this week, just really to give myself a chance of protecting this half-decent rank that I've built up in the first few weeks, because I keep seeing that everyone right at the top has used all their chips. I've used none. And I don't love my team for this game week. It's probably fine, but I'm like, well, I've only got one Liverpool player as it stands right now. I quite like the idea of doing a free hit and not having anything touching the Arsenal-Man City game and just risking not being involved in that. And I put together quite a good free hit team, but it's probably not wise. It's probably better to play the longer game. But I do need a Liverpool asset if that's the case. And I think Gakpo is the guy that I might go for as my Isak replacement, to be honest.
I love that punt from you. It's proper risky though, but I love that. I think if you get it right for minutes, I think you're going to get rewards for FPL points, because Luis Diaz has also been playing really well, hasn't he? But Gakpo took the spot on Tuesday night, and I thought he was Liverpool's best player. I thought him and Szoboszlai both, it was their best games, arguably in a Liverpool shirt. And yeah, Gakpo, has he done enough to start? Probably. If he plays well, does he play 80, 90 minutes? Maybe. You could see early subs, but 60 minutes for Liverpool feels all right at the moment if they've got the good fixture.
Yeah, obviously, there's just the risk. Is it a good? Is it definitely a good fixture? We thought Nottingham Forest was a good fixture, and they lost.
True.
So,
although I've got a hot take there. It's easy to say now because we know the outcome of the Forest game, but the Forest game was kind of low block. First time Liverpool had the low block, struggling to break a Nuno team down, defence first Nuno team. What do Bournemouth do every time they go to a big team? Like, especially under Iraola, they go and play. They're going to have a go at Anfield, which should be good for Salah and Gakpo and co, right?
Yeah, maybe. I hope you're right. And I do also, mate, have FOMO over Trent Alexander-Arnold this week. I'm just convinced he's going to score this week. On Ranks FC, we have a section on the pod where it's called Goal Zone, and you pick a game every week that you think you have those goals in it, and you pick a player to score, and you get more points if they're a defender or whatever. And I went with Trent. I'm just convinced that we've got Trent banger coming in this week. And obviously there is the historic 9-0 in the background here that we all remember, apart from Mo Salah. He's wiped it from their memory. But it's a really big game, and I've only got one player right now, so potentially Gakpo.
Yeah.
We'll see. I haven't tied myself to that yet, and I've got long enough that I can contemplate it properly. But look, other people are looking at other assets to come in. A few people started to jump on Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, mate, loads are. Fair play on that. And
that one.
He's fit now because he was ill on Tuesday. He missed us. He wasn't in the squad, was he? But Dyche has come out and said that him and a couple of others that were ill on Tuesday are in the squad this weekend. They're fine.
Yeah, and obviously it's not just Leicester away. He's then got Crystal Palace at home. So not two decent fixtures that I talked about when I said I was keeping him for this little spell.
Big man, welcome. How are
Johnny.
you, mate?
Hi, Dean.
Nice
How
to
are you
see
guys
you.
doing? I'm good.
Right.
I'm just fresh on the back of my laptop freezing. So yeah, I'm glad it's finally working out. Not much to actually discuss when it comes to the press conference. We haven't really heard any concrete updates as such.
No, we've not.
Isak and João Pedro were the big ones. As expected, Eddie Howe was practically useless, not giving us any inside information. João Pedro, I think the update was actually encouraging. Because I watched the video and he was there sort of suggested that, if the movements are fine, if everything goes well, then he's expected to be fine. But he did mention that he won't risk him in the same sentence. So I assume he didn't want to sort of give it away that he, whether he was starting or not. But I think for owners, the play is probably to just start him and hope that he plays.
Yeah, I mean, João Pedro, we've heard the line from Herzler, we won't risk him since last weekend, going into last weekend's press news fixture. But what we do know about João Pedro is we know he trained on Thursday because Herzler's told us that. We know he's trained today because Herzler said he is. And he's going to have a Saturday session because they play Sunday. So you'd think of 3 training sessions that you're going to surely. Dean, what's your take on João Pedro? Because he is needed at Brighton. Like, they produced loads of XG against Ipswich, didn't convert. And Herzler has said every team has that one player. And for us, it's João Pedro this morning. He's been quoted bigging João Pedro up. Like, he's absolutely a key cog and main man and arguably will become the talisman in this Brighton team. If I wildcard in 6, he'll probably be in my team.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I was looking at the lineup from the other day, and obviously, they've got Evan Ferguson coming back into the mix now. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean for this team? Is that just Danny Welbeck at risk, or do they change the look? Obviously, Enciso got a start as well in the League Cup, but Enciso's been a good impact player across this season as well so far. They're becoming a tricky team to actually predict in terms of the lineup once everybody's going to be fit, but obviously, if João Pedro is fit, he is probably the only one that's actually guaranteed. I've got a situation whereby, like, if I knew that João Pedro was playing, he would be coming in for me instead of Isak. But I can't do that. I can't risk bringing João Pedro in. If you've got him, you have to hope for the best, because I'd say that it's leaning in favour of actually playing this game.
Yeah. Big man, what do you reckon? Ferguson, Welbeck, Ratner, they've got a lot of options up front, but João Pedro's the main man still, we hope.
Yeah, João Pedro's clearly their best attacker, and I don't think he's at risk personally. If anyone, Welbeck will probably rotate in and out of the team once, let's say, Rutter hits any kind of form. But even Welbeck should be fine for the short term. In fact, I think he's a good short-term punt if anyone is looking, let's say, for a 1-week punt for wildcarding, because a lot of people are in this position where they have just one free transfer, they have a weak bench, and they are likely to sell Isak before wildcarding. So in that case, I think Welbeck is a good pick. Calvert-Lewin as well. So I don't think João Pedro is a buy this week, but I don't think he's a sell either.
The best striker in the Premier League is actually John Duran. So,
don't get me started. Don't get me started on that. Loads of people are buying him, and I'm like, he's just so not an FPL buy. I agree with you. He's a wicked player, though.
He's brilliant. Like, he should be starting against Wolves. He should be.
Not a hope, though.
Not if Watkins is okay. No, he's just not going to get it. But I don't think that will be able to continue forever. Not if Duran carries on scoring at this rate. And Watkins, he's playing well, but he's missing chances, and you can't play them together. I don't see a world where that's going to happen.
Yeah, we've never seen that under Emery at Villa, have we? We've never seen the kind of number two out and out forwards.
No. So with Duran, look, he's changed his mentality. I was speaking to somebody the other day that obviously, like last season, a lot of disciplinary problems. This summer, didn't behave brilliantly. I wouldn't have thought for towards his actual employers. But I speak to someone. They said, you know what? They've been quite impressed with him. He's grown up.
Okay.
He's moved into a spot where it's a bit quieter. He's keeping himself to himself a bit more. He's really focused. He's won over the Villa fans. Like Villa fans, when he scored that goal against West Ham, a lot of them still were a bit like, we don't really want you here. Tell you what, as soon as you get 3 goals this early in the season, suddenly a fan base does want you there. And it would not surprise me, mate, at all if it's Duran who ends up scoring against Wolves at the weekend. And I think I should be, like, my temptation is to go Isak to Watkins. But I don't really trust him in front of goal at the moment. And I don't trust him to get beyond 65 minutes if he hasn't scored. So is he actually a good pick? I'm not sure. I'm really not.
I started the week with Watkins as in my head. I didn't come out and publicly say this because I wanted to hold it because I knew people would give me stick for it. But in my head, my captain was going to be Watkins this week. That's changed from what I saw on Tuesday night. I saw the 60-minute sub again on an artificial pitch, and I saw ice on his ankle. Those 2 things have put me off because I just think even higher chance of reduced minutes. Do I think he starts? Yes, I do. Do I think if he doesn't score, he comes off at 60, just as Dean said? And Dirac, yeah, I do see that. If he hasn't scored at 60, he's off. If he has scored and he's playing well, then there's a chance he plays 70, maybe 75, 80 even. There was a game on Tuesday night against Wickham. That's the one Watkins will miss. And then it's 8 days later for the next Premier League game. So we haven't got to worry about rest for Watkins. But yeah, you're right. I don't necessarily think he's an FPL buy this week, unless you've got an Isak problem and you've got money in the bank for Watkins. I don't mind that. We should probably give our top 3 Isak replacements, all the way down to like the Calvert-Lewin price point. I mean, my number 1, if you've got the money in the bank, would still be to punt on a Watkins because I do like him. But then I would go like maybe a Solanke Calvert-Lewin. I'm not hot on Vardy, and I know a lot are, but I'm not. Big man, what's your take on the kind of forward shopping list?
Yeah, I mean, as mentioned the other day, I think Watkins is fine as a 1-week buy. I agree. For people in the market for Isak, he's a good pick. I'm personally going for Solanke if we hear no information on Isak, or if...
Are you?
Yes, I will. Or assuming that there are no credible leaks suggesting that Isak has been training or has traveled, then in that event, I will go with Solanke because, he's played 90 minutes twice this season. His underlying data has been strong. I expect Spurs to score a couple of goals against Brentford, and there's a chance that Solanke could be on pens as well. So I think Solanke at his price is going to be good value. Even if you're not wildcarding next week, I think Solanke's fixtures from the next few are actually good enough to probably justify keeping him.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if you guys watched the Tottenham Coventry game, but
was it that bad? Because I heard it was that bad.
Oh yeah, it's one of the worst Tottenham performances in living memory. It was bad, and Solanke played because Ange Postecoglou needs him to have minutes in the bank, and he also needs to get him in form, and he wants him to get that goal and get up and running. So he plays him for that reason. And then he comes out of the game and Solanke hasn't scored. So that's gone against him. But that is no detriment to Solanke. There was no link. He had no support. The approach play towards Solanke was next to nothing. Tottenham was so poor. And I'm told one of the things they are working on is gearing everything more towards Solanke. Solanke was an Ange Postecoglou signing. They had some really good options that they looked at in terms of signing a striker, like Tony and Gyökeres and people like this were like serious players to come in. Ange was like, he feels that Solanke sets the tone for that attack and he trusts his finishing instincts. So he's going to keep playing him. They still believe in him. And the guy I speak to at Tottenham was like, he'll score this weekend. He was like, he'll score this weekend. I was like, am I really going to pick Dominic Solanke on just a hunch? And is this what I'm doing this week? And now I hear big man's thinking the same thing. So like, in terms of replacements, the 3 in my mind have been Solanke, Watkins and Gakpo. Like they are the three that I've had in my mind as like obviously all very different approaches, but they're the ones that I've got in my head.
Dean, on Gakpo, I'd also like to mention that since it's a lunchtime kickoff, where we could have in Liverpool team leaks before the deadline, so that punt will automatically sort of appeal more if you hear that he's starting before the deadline.
But not for Dean. He's at a massive disadvantage now in San Diego.
The time doesn't help. Yeah, was it a 3 a.m.? Well, it's a 3 a.m. deadline. So what time does that mean we'll get a leak? Like 1:30 a.m. or something for me.
It's really late. It could even be 2:30. Like it could be half an hour before the deadline. We will get Liverpool leaks. Like there's no if about it. We'll know if Jota.
I might have to have a late night, lads. I might have to have a late night because
how much does FPL mean to you?
Yeah, well, we'll see. Suddenly, mate, he's got half a decent rank and he's staying up all night to check his team news. But Gakpo was so good the other day. Liverpool needs something else to happen in this attack. And I've just got a feeling it might be him. And remember, lads, I'm playing on feelings this season. I'm playing on the eye test. I'm not playing on the stats. People will say, nah, Gakpo's not the guy that you want in this. That's not the one that chances are going to fall to. I'm like, but I'm watching this guy, and I think the other day might be his best performance in a Liverpool shirt. Like, I don't think he's going to be left out for this game. They need to win.
Yep. Yeah, after last weekend's defeat, and it was a Tuesday night in Milan. Like there's plenty of, it's a Tuesday, Saturday, not Wednesday, Saturday turnaround. And the EFL Cup next week for a lot of these Premier League teams involved in Europe really will help in terms of rest next week. That's the fixture they'll come out. That's that's the fixture. I think Darwin starts next week against West Ham on the Wednesday night. It's worth mentioning with all the replacements we're discussing, and the title of the show is Isak and Pedro replacements. Dean hasn't spoken about Dominic Calvert-Lewin because he already owns him. Me and Big Man, however, who gave me especially, Dean, stick for going Calvert-Lewin. Fair play. He has been brilliant for you, mate. And I genuinely think on my Game Week 6 wildcard, it's a toss of a coin at the moment between Calvert-Lewin and João Pedro. I think maybe I'm 60-40 João Pedro, but arguably the best and cheap forward in the game.
Yeah, look, people got so carried away pre-season and the Muniz train that everyone was jumping aboard. And I told you all, Muniz ain't very good, right? He goes through phases. His approach play actually is quite good now. He's not going to be a prolific goal scorer. And at the end of the day, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is a much better Premier League striker than Muniz.
He's a handful for centre-backs, any Calvert-Lewin. The proper handful.
Yeah, but he's always there, mate.
And he's
got actual pedigree in this league. If he hadn't have had the injuries that he'd had, he wouldn't be playing for Everton. He would be at a top club. Right?
Ancelotti loved him. Ancelotti said he was in his Inzaghi.
I mean, yeah.
he was actually. I remember that season he was going crazy, and everyone seemed to own him.
He was amazing.
There was this spell of about I think 10-15 games where he was scoring goals for fun. I remember he used to be essential at that point, and then has been. And then injury sort of curtailed his rise through then. But at that point, he was crazy. And I mean, kudos to Dean for picking him because, I'll be honest, he was nowhere near making my Game Week 1 squad. But at this point in time, I think I would find it difficult to go without him in Game Week 6, very much like Gianni mentioned. So kudos to you for being ahead of that curve on that one. I think a lot of the listeners would be interested in us ranking the Isak replacements from 1 to 3 in order of preference. So let's do that. I would go with
what's the max spend here, big man? Can we go 8.5 or not?
No,
we can't
let's assume that. Let's assume that people won't have the funds to spend because a lot of people have Salah and Haaland, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, I would go with Solanke, Calvert-Lewin, Vardy in that order.
Yeah,
I would go Calvert-Lewin 1, Solanke 2, Welbeck 3. I'd go Welbeck, assuming you've got João Pedro already. I'd go João Pedro if you've not got him, but I'd target Brighton. I like Brighton very much.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, the problem with Calvert-Lewin, and the reason a lot of people made fun of my pick at the time was like, well, he'll be injured within 5 minutes. And it's like, well, he might not. Just
he wasn't injured that much last year.
Just because he's had an injury record doesn't mean that has to persist for the rest of time. But obviously, there's always a chance, but all these other strikers that are now injured instead. Calvert-Lewin's going strong here in Game Week 5, and you've got Isak out, and João Pedro's out, and Muniz is out of form, and all these sorts of things that are thrown up. I think that this is such a big game for Everton. I think that Dwight McNeil actually is probably an underrated pick and someone that's probably, it would be a bit risky, but I think Dwight McNeil is somebody that I would have a big eye on.
He's in my wildcard, game week 16.
He's so dangerous, mate. And I think that in poor teams, sometimes you have to look for players that are fireproof. And that don't matter in terms of how the team's actually performing. Like we had Cole Palmer last season when Chelsea nearly got relegated. We've got the same this season with Everton. And Dwight McNeil and Calvert-Lewin is a pretty good combination, I've got to say. I've watched every Everton game so far. And yes, they are in disarray because they get trapped in the headlights as soon as they're in front, but the spells in which they're good, they are actually very good, and that means that actually you can trust the attacking element of this team. So McNeil, Calvert-Lewin is a decent combination. Actually, low key, Jack Harrison's actually been pretty good as well. I wouldn't pick him right now, but just for if Everton do turn a corner at some point, I think he's gonna be good too.
It's just that minutes risk, isn't it? Because Ndai's now there, so he's it's him or Harrison. But you're right, McNeil is the 90-minute nailed playmaker, set pieces, 5.4. Him and Calvert-Lewin, you're right. They've scored a couple of goals in the last 2 fixtures, Everton. They are scoring. They might be scoring, right?
Yeah, and they're missing chances too. Like Calvert-Lewin could have had more goals. So. Yeah, this is such a big fixture for them because of the situation they find themselves in at the bottom of the league that they've got to get something out of a fixture like this. So, yeah, I do think DCL is a decent pick.
Henry mentions Delap, fair play. Like Delap at Ipswich, you could consider. And I did see a few comments about Nketiah too, like fair play. Nketiah should, again, if you're looking at 6 million under, Nketiah scored in the week, playing up front.
Well, Mateta could be a replacement as well, mate, because... you look at Crystal Palace and what you're getting from them in a fixture like this. On paper, you're like, oh, well, they've got Man United. Probably just avoid it for now. I don't want to double up on Crystal Palace players when they're playing Man United, who might be turning a corner. Man United don't have good form at Crystal Palace. They've lost 2 of their last 3 away games at Crystal Palace. Since Glasner came in at Crystal Palace, only Erling Haaland has scored more Premier League goals than Mateta. Mateta's got 15 in 17 games since Glasner came into Crystal Palace. Haaland's got 19 in that period. So, Mateta's right on his heels, mate. So, I think that actually we should also have an eye on Mateta. As I say, it would be brave to go a double up on Palace if you've already got Eze. But Eze played well in midweek. United are acting like they've suddenly got themselves into gear, right? They've just scored 10 goals in 2 games. They've beaten Southampton and Barnsley. Are we convinced that Crystal Palace can't beat Man United? I would say we're not convinced about that, right? So I think low-key, if you're looking at a 4th option behind the 3 that we're all ranking, Mateta should be in there.
Yeah, fair, big man. What do you reckon?
Yeah, Mateta's not a bad pick, especially now that he's in the mix. Especially now that he's in the mix with Pence. And Gianni, on your point regarding Welbeck, I think if we hear in the unlikely event that we hear that João Pedro has not made the squad, if he's not made the 11, then I think Welbeck becomes an even better pick. In which case, I think I might even go with Welbeck. Because then that there's a very good chance that he's going to play the significant majority of minutes. I suspect in the absence of Welbeck, in the absence of João Pedro, he'll be on penalties as well. So I think Welbeck is not a bad shout. Actually, I really like Welbeck this week.
Yeah, nice. For all of us then, who have we got and who could we make that transfer for? Because, we'll see our teams in a minute. So let's hold on that conversation. Bad idea, Channy, bad idea. We'll wait till the teams are in front of us.
Editing yourself here, mate.
There's over 300 of you watching. We'd love some likes, guys. We haven't asked you in the first 28 minutes to do anything. So now we're going to do 17 minutes of hashtag ads and call to actions. Only kidding. But do subscribe. And Dean, tell us about the members area as well, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, look, if you fancy a bit more CGA action, then we have got 2 tiers now on the membership. One of them is a very basic one where you can just support the channel, make sure that we don't disappear off of YouTube in a couple of weeks because we've run out of funds. And you get a little emoticons and stuff alongside your name. And The second tier is that you get to come in a WhatsApp group, you get to chat to us, and there's also going to be we've got a members section now on YouTube where there's extra video content from us as well. Going to be uploading various little bits and pieces, and it's all quite casual stuff. It's quite nice. It's not very formal like you get a lot of FPL videos. I'm literally just kind of sat when I'm at home. Suddenly I'll have a thought and I'll just grab the phone and record like a 4 or 5 minute video with where I am in that moment. I saw you posted a casual one the other day, which was a nice one.
I think I was in bed.
A bed or a walk, I can't remember which one it was.
I've done both. I've done a bed and a walk last 2 weeks. Yeah.
Don't be put off by the bed one, people. But it's good fun. So if you just want a bit more FPL action and a bit more interactivity, then come get involved.
Yeah, nice. Guys, thank you as always. We do read all your comments and we'll try and answer some questions at the end of the show as well. I did see FPL Discomfort in the chat earlier to say about Brighton, and that maybe will be for another day because we moved on from that. But I know he is a big Brighton fan like me and actually sent me a really cool video on Hurslers setup and tactics moving forward. I think it's going to be super exciting for Brighton fans this season. Which is why I like that João Pedro cover. Shall we have a look then at our teams? Holly Shand has just come off her stream and she's only gone and done another raid. If you are joining from the Holly Shand YouTube channel,
thanks very much, Holly.
Welcome. Right now, hit that subscribe button and stay watching for the next half an hour. But thank you to all of Holly's YouTubers. Shall we? Hey, a TV wife raid, says Ice G. Yeah, I'm with Holly tomorrow morning, which I'm excited about. We're on Sky. So we've not been on Sky together for over a month, so it'll be nice.
Oh,
to
really?
See her. Yeah. So great, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you're new around here, Chasing Green Arrows is a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday stream channel. We always do streams. We do Monday evenings, we do Wednesday lunchtimes, and we do Friday lunchtimes. It's your home of FPL. Alongside the Holly Shan YouTube channel, it's as good as you'll find. Let's reveal some teams, shall we?
Yeah, let's go for it. We're also on 3 different time zones if people are wondering what we're all doing right now. So it's 6:30 a.m. for me. G, what's the time for you? 2:30 p.m.?
I'm in Seville, so it's 3:30.
Oh, yeah, 3:30. You're in Seville. Okay, you're 3:30. Big man, what time is it for you?
It's 6:30 over here in Pakistan.
That is amazing. From San Diego via Seville to Pakistan. That is awesome.
What a journey we're on here.
I'm going to have to tell you boys at the end of the stream. We'll drop this in 25 minutes. My Giorgio Chiellini story from yesterday as well. I don't know if you saw my socials. Yeah, I've been with my boy Giorgio.
I don't like him, but yeah, I'm sure you do.
I was massively starstruck. I was like, I can't get my words out. It's Giorgio Chiellini. Meet your hero. Anyway, let's talk big man's team. The Malouda Triangle, game week 5. You've got a bit of money in the bank. You've got 1 free transfer, big man. You're going to be waiting on team leaks. We might not get them from Newcastle. We haven't really got a tried and tested leaker amongst the sort of FPL Twitter or YouTube space for Newcastle. So if you don't hear anything, you'll be transferring Isak out, I expect. If you don't see or hear anything.
I think my team is fairly straightforward. With the information available right now, I think João Pedro will probably start. And I'm happy to sort of take the risk of playing him rather than transferring him out. I know I have a weak bench, and in case he misses out, I have wings for cover. But I'm happy to take that chance with the information available. Isak is the big worry, and as things stand, Isak to Solanke is likely to happen. If it is leaked that Isak is traveling with the squad or is starting, then I will be rolling a transfer, which was always the plan for this week before I wildcard into game week 6.
Yeah. Dean, what do you make of big man's team? Because I've seen this on Wednesday. What's your take in terms of decisions he should be making and plan with wildcard? Obviously, if you can roll a transfer going into your wildcard for the first time ever, that transfer carries over. So you could roll this week, wildcard next week, and in game week 7 you'll have 2 frees, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I've actually seen more and more people talking about their methods that they're going to use of approach to the wild card, and some people try to even build up 3 free transfers leading into a wild card. So then, if the wild card does go slightly astray, that 2 weeks later you've suddenly got a new wild card, basically. So that's interesting and a good approach. Obviously it's a good team. Needs Bruno Fernandes to kick into gear. 8.4 is a lot of money to be spending on somebody that's not got any output. And the problem with Bruno is that I don't know if he's the guy that delivered. The positive thing for big man is that Bruno has had more shots without scoring than any other player in the Premier League so far this season.
Wow.
So you'd like to think that that's going to change. Like, it's a slightly worrying stat because you're like, well, why? Why is he having so many shots that aren't going in the back of the net? He did 13, and he hasn't got a goal. But he will also benefit from the fact that the players around him have suddenly found a little bit of form and confidence, right? So at the weekend, he'll have Xerxes ahead of him. He'll have Rashford out on the left. He'll have either Garnacho or Diallo out on the right. I can't see Anthony getting into this team still. But at least those players have actually got some hunger and competitiveness about it and actually might be on his wavelength. So I'd say, yeah, looking at what we've got in front of us, apart from the obvious risks in terms of injuries, it's only really Bruno that you would be slightly concerned about. But as I say, the underlying stats, which I know Big Man loves, show that he's got to change soon. He's got to turn a corner.
Guys, we'll do a poll on captaincy, Haaland versus Salah poll, and we'll just do an other. But yeah, Big Man, we'll just answer this question and then come back to Bruno. I would be taking Muniz out, and we've given our thoughts in the show. I mean, we all like different forwards, but I like DCL, Big Man, Solanke. So yeah, we do think Muniz. We wouldn't be saying take a hit to start Gibbs White. I would start Gibbs White and don't take a hit for Isak.
Yeah, you've got to give Gibbs White some love here. A lot of people haven't really picked Morgan Gibbs White this season, obviously. I mean, I did pick Morgan Gibbs White earlier. Gibbs White has created more chances from open play than anyone else in the Premier League so far this season. So Gibbs White is number 1 and Pedro Porro is number 2. So absolutely, like, this is a decent game week for Gibbs White. He's playing right up there. He's getting good positions. And if you stick with him, he'll give you returns.
Check you out with the stats, Dean.
I know, mate.
Bruno with the shots, Gibbs White with the chances created. I love that. Big Man, we're not used to this, are we? Well, Dean does have some stats up his locker, to be fair.
Yeah, you're quite lucky because on Thursdays, part of my work now involves like this stats section. And I don't want to say I don't do my own research, but somebody basically sends me loads and loads of stats. So it's like a different part of my work that I just like steal and bring over here for the afternoon.
Where is that stats section if anyone wants to check it out? Because there will be people watching that are really into stats. Where can they find that?
Well, it's on ranks. So it's from William Hill is where the stuff comes from. But I'm doing Ranks FC stuff as well. We're doing more preview stuff. So it's a mixture of those two things.
Nice. Dean, Big Man, Bruno, your wildcard in next week. I saw you put together a wildcard draft from game week 6 onwards. And Bruno was still in it. If he blanks this week, he won't be in your wildcard team, will he? What have you got to see from Bruno to actually put him in your wildcard team? Because
he loves
I just don't get it.
Yeah, regarding the listener's question, to address that first, I think you have a bench for a reason. So if you have Gibbs White, there's no need to sell Isak for a hit because you have the 8th attacker to cover for, if any attacker misses out, then that's the reason why you have him for. So for sure, don't take the hit. I prefer Solanke, as we mentioned earlier. We've discussed the best replacements. Coming to Bruno, he was never going to be a sell for me this week, irrespective of what happened, because I was planning on rolling the transfer. Coming to the wildcard, I did have him in my draft. It was probably silly of me to still keep him. But again, my strategy for this season is probably not going to change because I want to keep hold of these guys like Eze, Mbomo, Bruno, and play around with the heavy hitters because I want to change those players while I have a stable and steady defense and a stable and steady midfield. That's going to be the plan. Having said that, out of all the players that I mentioned in my wildcard draft, if there's anyone who misses out, I think it's Bruno out of the attackers. And he's more susceptible to missing out. So it's not as if he's like a shoe-in like he was in game week 1.
Yeah.
Nice, fair enough.
Yeah.
What do we make of... Sorry, Dean, go on.
I was just reading the comments and Danny talking about the fact that Duran and Watkins played together in the Everton game last week.
Yeah, that was a different scenario because Watkins was playing well and scoring goals. And yeah, it did happen for a short time. Watkins still did come off early, though.
Yeah, it's an anomaly, I think.
It wasn't long on the pitch together.
It wasn't a brief crossover, but it's not going to be a tactic, yeah.
Yeah, it was exactly that. What do we make of Man United other attackers? Because I know I joke about sort of Bruno and it's not for me, but I am genuinely interested in a cheaper alternative in that midfield. If a Rashford or a Garnacho or an Ahmad is, we think, a serious FPL option, what do we make of the United wingers? Because Rashford seems to be first choice down the left and did well in the week. Garnacho, every time he comes on, gets points, like looks great. But Ahmad played really well last weekend too. Like, who starts on the right for Man United this weekend? Because Garnacho feels like a great FPL pickup at his price. You could argue Ahmad too, but we just don't know which one's going to be starting, do we? Or do we? Have I missed something?
No, we don't know because of the dilemma. It's a nice dilemma for Ten Hag for once, but he's got a tricky one. Amad Diallo deserves to keep his place on the right. Amad Diallo deserves to start against Crystal Palace. But obviously, Garnacho is making a big impact. And I'll be honest, Garnacho is a better player. But Garnacho is better suited to the left. So what they've done, basically, Ten Hag is desperate, obviously, to get goals into this team. And he's trying as much as he can to unlock the old Rashford. So that's why he played as a centre-forward against Barnsley. He knew that Barnsley would not be able to cope with Rashford physically, could not cope with. He's just a better player, right? Like Rashford
gets confidence up, gets goals.
So it was like, right, let's get some goals in him so he can go central against Barnsley. So he does it, and it works. Rashford gets a couple of goals, plays well, builds on the goal that he's got against Southampton. But then he gets more of a dilemma because the other players all have good games too. But what has to happen, because Xerxes will be back, like Rashford's not going to be leading the line in the Premier League. That's not going to be his position. He only played there because they knew that he would be able to bully people and get goals. He will now shift back out to the left. Xerxes will come into that central role. All that's up for grabs is that right spot. And my hunch is that it's Diallo. And at 5 million, that makes him a really good pick. But you've also got to bear in mind, there's absolutely no way that Diallo is playing an entire game here. So he's going to get subbed. And he's going to be probably the first sub. So then Garnacho's coming on. So even if Garnacho's sub, you get him come in. So, yeah, it's a bit of a punt, really. Only 10% owned Garnacho. I think he's somebody that is going to grow into this season. There's absolutely no way that Garnacho is going to accept that he's just going to be an impact player across this season. So maybe one to avoid. If you want to pick a United asset this week, I think the only one you could really go for out of those would be Rashford. And at 6.9 million, do you know what? That's not a bad pickup.
I'm actually really looking forward to Garnacho if he starts and plays and shows any sort of form. I think he could be a great enabler on the Game Week 6 wildcard. I mean, him over Bruno with the extra 2 million could allow for some beautiful things.
Yeah. Do you know, I'm really interested on that wildcard, Game Week 6 wildcard, depending on what we see this week with the United wide men, but also with Chelsea. Like, I could see a world in which Sancho starts against West Ham, probably only gets 60 because he's not ready for 90. He looks really good on that left-hand side. He could be first choice pick. He's 6.3 million. And then Nkunku's the other one. Like, Nkunku, Maresca has said today, we've got 2 players in each position. And he listed Nkunku as we've got Jackson and we've got Nkunku as the 9. Now, Jackson will start against West Ham. But if he has a bad game and Nkunku comes off the bench and scores again, there could be a world in which Nkunku is the first choice number 9 come Game Week 6. Unlikely, maybe more 7 or 8.
Yeah.
One to monitor, because he can finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look, he should be the number 9. Like, he's not his best position, but it would be better suited to this team if you had somebody who could actually finish a chance, and it would be handy if Nkunku was there more often than Nicholas Jackson, I'm afraid.
Yeah, he's got to be in the 11 somehow, and you're right, it's not his best position, but it seems like it's the only way we can get him in. Guys, thank you so much for all your comments. I think there might be a reply in the chat to... Oh, I'm not sure. Our producer said, can I reply to Egg Uru? So Egg Uru, we'll put your question on screen so I see it. I didn't see it come in. But yeah, we'll move through and get onto a couple of other teams as well. Thank you for voting in the poll. Who are you captaining this Game Week 5? We'll give our answers shortly. So far, it does feel like the vast majority of you are going Mo Salah at 58%. But only 19% Haaland, which is quite surprising because there's still 23% out there that are going for someone outside of those two. I guess those that own Watkins might go there, but I'd be worried of his minutes. There might be a few other crazy punts. Let us give us names if you are going outside of those 2 or 3 players. I have Palmer and Salah, but who should I sell for Saka in Game Week 6? Thanks for your question. I would wait till Game Week 6. Like, it's too early to decide. Like, see Palmer, see Salah, and then decide next week. Like, what you see this week could change that. My hunch would be I would keep Salah if I could, and I'd be selling Cole Palmer. But let's see how Chelsea look against West Ham.
It has to be Salah, surely, because looking at Chelsea's fixtures, they're playing at home to Brighton and Nottingham Forest in game week 6 and 7 respectively. So I think for most people it will be Salah.
Yeah. Oh, a few are captaining Trent this week. Loads have said Trent, and a few Palmer as well. Interesting. I don't mind that Trent call, I guess. Dean thinks he could see a goal from Trent as well. Son as a possible captain option isn't for me this week. I can't trust Spurs. I don't mind Son or Solanke as an own, but as captain, feels brave. My big decision this week, guys, is whether or not I get 11 men out. Do I need to make a transfer? Ideally, I want to roll the track. Last week, I got 10 men out. And this week, I've got the exact same problem. I might get lucky, but I'm not sure. I do think João Pedro and Watkins will start, but Lewis Hall goes to Fulham. Now, if you've got a Mark Adama Traore who's playing really well, do you play Lewis Hall or do you play Lloyd Kelly? Surely you play Lloyd Kelly, right?
That's not even the only problem, mate, because now Kieran Trippier is coming back into the fold, and there's no way that Kieran Trippier, now that he's hanging around at Newcastle, is going to be sub every week. I spoke to someone at Newcastle the other day to try and get a reporter there to try and gauge what they felt would happen.
Yeah.
And he said that you've got to bear in mind there's a possibility that Trippier will end up coming back in at right back, and Livramento could even move over to be competition on the other side.
Yeah. So
that's another thing to consider. I don't know if that's for this week or if that's forward looking, but Trippier obviously is like a really good player, and they're not just going to leave him. There was a very...
They looked better when he came on last week. He came on for the last 20 and they looked a lot better instantly. But it wasn't Livramento that came off, because I was worried when Trippier was coming on. I was like, they're going to sub Lewis Hall off.
Yeah,
and Livramento will go to left
back.
back.
I thought that too. But so you might be all right for this game week.
But tell us about Adama and Mark and Adama. Is that going to be a Lloyd Kelly job? Is he very wide? That is going to be the left back's job. He's not playing that central, is he? He's going to be
wide,
responsibility of the left man, and he's playing down the right. So if you're Eddie Howe, do you put young Lewis Hall, who's a centre mid by trade, against Adama, who's Fulham's most dangerous attacking outlet at the moment? You've got to go Lloyd Kelly, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, look, Adama will tie either of them up in knots. He'll get past him. It's just the fact that Adama's got no end product, so it doesn't really matter anyway. Don't pick Adama Traore, honestly. He's surprising me with this start to the season. Yeah, I still have very, very little faith in him actually making the right choices once he gets towards the edge of the box, and I'll continue to say that the only Fulham players you should be considering are Emil Smith-Rowe and Anthony Robinson, and just leave it there. But yeah, you got to go with Hall, obviously, mate. And he has done nothing wrong, so I would imagine you're probably okay.
Yeah, and there's a good chance even if Kelly starts, they're losing the game. Hall comes on for Kelly, if they're winning the game. Hall does seem to come off the bench for 20. I think they'll concede regardless, Newcastle, and I'm probably getting a 1 or 2 pointer, start or not start. Big man, what would you do with this team? Because obviously, if we hear João Pedro's not playing or whatever, you'd sell, or Watkins, but I'm confident they'll both be all right, or I think they will be. But Lewis Hall, would you gamble and just make the transfer just in case? I could go Johnson to Dunk or Hall to Udogie. I think there's very few defenders this week with sort of under 5 million that I can bank on a clean sheet. So I'd just go for one with upside in Udogie, or a possible clean sheet from Dunk. But that, then they're not bankers by any stretch for points. So I feel like it's worth just risking and going into the wild card with a free transfer.
Yeah, I mean, does Udogie really have that kind of upside as well? I'm not sure. I expect Brentford to score. I mean, it's not as attacking. I mean, Porro's the one ideally you'd want from the Spurs defense, right? And yeah, I mean, it's basically a very tricky one. You'd expect Hall to come on, right? So it's basically a 1-pointer. If you're using a transfer, you'd want a guaranteed clean sheet. I don't think you will get that out of any of the defenders this week, because even when you look at the clean sheet odds, Spurs are 30%, Brighton are 34%. So that's not amazing probability. I think I would just roll in your place and just have the flexibility of having a free transfer next week. I mean, Liverpool have the highest clean sheet odds this week, and even they are 40%. So it's not much.
Yeah, exactly. We could hear pre-deadline. One team we'll hear about Liverpool. We always hear about Liverpool. There's a chance Jota will be benched. Darwin starts. I personally think Jota will start. But if we were to hear that, I could make the Jota move. But if Jota doesn't start, he's going to get 30 minutes. And I think Jota at 30 minutes versus Bournemouth is fine. Like, if I hear Jota's not starting, I don't think I'll be making a transfer there. So my question, Dean, would you make that transfer, Jota out? Because there's good midfielders I could buy. There's no sexy defenders. But if Jota isn't starting, still all right and unowned, isn't he?
Fine, yeah. I would leave Jota.
I would
leave Jota. You would sell?
I would sell for sure. Where would you go? If he's not starting, then yes. At 7.6, I'd be tempted to go Eze if I'm totally honest.
I thought you were going to say Eze. I do like Eze for United, you know.
Yeah. Eze is a good pick this week. I would go with Eze. Not too many other midfielders appeal, but yeah, Eze is one.
Rashford, man.
I mean, if Jota is not starting, we might hear a leak that Diaz is starting. You can go Luis Diaz as well. But I think I still prefer Eze for the minutes.
Yeah, shame I can't go Gakpo. Like, if we heard Jota wasn't starting, but Gakpo was, I'd be like, oh, but Gakpo's obviously a forward. Luis Diaz is a midfielder. So you're right. Yeah, maybe I could stay within Liverpool. And I have got a little bit of money in the bank, so I can go up to not quite Bruno levels. I think I'm 0.1 or 2 short of Bruno. But yeah, Dean knows I'm not going to buy a United player. And Burmo, by the way, isn't a bad option either against Spurs. Like, and Mark said, the disrespect we're showing towards Brentford. That no one thinks we're not. Like, we probably all think Brentford will get a point. Like, I mean, we're not saying Brentford are rubbish. We're just, as always, shopping for teams with at home quite often and with high ceiling. And Spurs on their day can do that. But no, and Burmo will be a permanent fixture on Wildcard for many, I think, and maybe even Kevin Schade, and maybe even a defender. Keen to know what Brentford defender I want to buy, but we'll talk about that more next week. Let's see your team, Dean, because you're the one with the good rank. You're in the top 100k already. Where are you? Dizzy heights of what, 60, 70k?
Oh, let's have a look, shall we? Overall, 72,000 right now. Yeah, so yeah, not bad. Yeah, so
not bad. You're the highest ranked content creator in FPL that hasn't used a chip.
Oh dear, that says a lot for everyone else, not me. Let's look. It's the Isak one is a problem, but I'll put that to bed tonight. I honestly, as I said at the top of the show, I have seriously contemplated the idea of using a chip just to try to keep my rank up here and, like, one, give this channel some fun, but two, also just like keep me up there for the time being. And I think I put together a free hit team that totally avoided the Arsenal Man City game and dealt with the potential injury problems with this team, and I really like it.
Oh no!
But I'm not doing it. As much as I'm playing on gut instincts and having fun this season, I can accept that it's not the right thing to do. So with the free hit not being played, it's just going to be a simple replacement of Isak, and I don't really know where I'll be going exactly yet. I'll decide it later. I am tempted by Gakpo as my different pick, but it's probably... Do you know what? Since I said Mateta earlier in the conversation, I keep thinking about Mateta, and I'm like now convinced Palace will also get a penalty against Man United. So by Mateta and Eze, that might be a bit different. So I might do a different one. I might go somewhere different to everyone else. Maybe I'll go like John Duran and like Ollie Watkins gets subbed and Duran comes on and scores again. And I'm the only one that's happy about that. So I might look to just have fun with that third striker option.
You know how to get nibbles out of me, don't you? John Duran, all these Man United recommendations, talk of a free hit. Like you just wind me up.
I'm playing the game very differently to you, I think. I think it's fair to say that me and you have got very different approaches this season.
You played it better and differently. Nico Jackson?
Nicholas Jackson will never, ever be in my team.
I remember you saying that after a couple of weeks of him being in the Premier League. You had made your bed there early.
Oh mate, I don't think there's with forwards. I'm so instinctive on watching them and judging them very quickly if I don't like what I see. And like I was immediate on Nico Jackson that he's just rubbish. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, Rico Lewis is becoming a little bit of a problem now.
Is he?
Well,
he started in the Champions League though. He's still first choice.
He didn't play very well.
And he's playing at left. Was he left or right back?
I don't know that it was his fault. You're going to say, like in the setup that they used, City weren't very good in general, to be honest, the other day. And in fact, your man Phil Foden is actually the one to watch at Man City coming
He's
through
in my
right
wildcard team in 6.
now. Mate. I actually think that Foden would be a good pick for this week.
Oh, yeah, with De Bruyne up in there, probably not going to start, is he, De
Bruyne? Yeah, I think that actually Foden is a really interesting pick for this week. I don't think barely anyone in the whole game will do it, but I think that that's an interesting way to be going. I don't think Haaland will score, to be honest. I think that Arsenal will lock him up. I think that you consider what happened between Man City and Arsenal last season. Saliba and Gabriel have just got everything that you need to do what Inter Milan did to him the other day. Haaland looks to bully people first and foremost. He's always going to have the prowess and the movement to get half a yard and get a shot away. So that will happen. And obviously he's got an opportunity to score a penalty. But Saliba and Gabriel are one of the only combinations in this league that have the potential to keep him quiet again.
Well, are they as good as a Serbi, though, who by himself has kept him quiet for 180 minutes now?
Of course they are. They've already done it last season twice.
Yeah, but that's 2 of them.
Yeah, but it's 2v1. It's fine. It's fine. That's their combination on Haaland.
For the record, I do think Saliba and Gabriel are both probably better defenders, but I just thought it was funny.
A Serbi was
a donkey, but very
good.
Good.
Haaland hated it, right? He absolutely hated it. And if he gets that treatment again this weekend, he's going to be so annoyed. So they should do it to him. But yeah, so even if you've got Arsenal defenders this week, and you're thinking, oh no, we're up against Man City, I think there's a reasonable chance that this game ends 0-0. I really do. But look at what we've just seen from both teams in midweek. You think of the fact that neither team is going to want to lose this game. Neither team is playing like sensational stuff right now in terms of like the very top level. I can see it being a cagey tactical game. And it wouldn't surprise me 0-0 or 1-0. Yeah, Bobby says, I think 1-0 Man City Haaland goal. And it might be. Maybe Haaland gets 1 goal. But yeah, I do think that if you were to be really brave in this game and you were to free hit this week and go without Saka or Haaland, there's so many options out there to pick other games and actually pick a really good team.
Nice. I like that, guys. We will do some very DFL discomfort. 1-0 Sterling winner, says the Arsenal fan here and there. Guys, we'll do some very quick fire questions. Just one word from you guys before we answer. Are we all captain Salah this week? Yes or no?
Yes, I mean, on Dean's point, I'd like to sort of elaborate further. I agree with him. In the previous 3 or 4 meetings, Arsenal City haven't really seen high-scoring games. It's been low-scoring. And I agree with Dean when he says that he wouldn't be shocked if Haaland gets an attacking return, but anything more than that, I mean, if he scores a brace, I would be shocked. I don't think this is a fixture where he does that, personally. That is why Salah captain makes a lot of sense, and I think that call is more or less clear and obvious for people who own him. I'm actually more intrigued to see where you go if you don't. I still think Haaland is the second best captaincy shout. Would you still prefer Haaland over Palmer? I still think Haaland is more reliable, so I'd go with Haaland.
Same. At home as well. Palmer away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that too. I actually think West Ham will beat Chelsea, but that's neither here nor there.
After watching them against Fulham, I'm not sure they will. Oh, rubbish.
I think they'll change that team quite a bit this week. I think he's been quite stubborn so far, Lopetegui, and I think he won't be able to do it, especially in front of a home crowd. I think that we'll have to see something a bit more from him. Actually, I wouldn't be totally surprised if he moves Jarrod Bowen into the centre this weekend. Jarrod Bowen at 7.5 on pens as well. Like he actually might be a decent pick.
Mustafa, I'd go Rico Lewis and Solanke. Next question. We're going to go quick fire, guys. One for you, Dean. We'll go through in order.
He is a good pick at 5 mil because he is likely to start the game at Crystal Palace.
Big man?
Own João Pedro Semenyo, start João Pedro Semenyo. I would still start João Pedro because if he plays, you'd still want him. I know there's a risk of a 1-pointer, but I would still start him over Semenyo.
Don't sell Son unless you can go direct to Salah, but don't captain Son either.
Oh, blimey. I would captain Trent in that situation.
Oh, wow. That's surprising. I would still go with Haaland. Amrit is asking, Isak, Jota, Tembomo, Solanke, is it a good -4? It depends on your strategy. So if you have, let's say if you're wildcarding next week, then I won't do it. I would just have whichever bench fodder you have for cover, and I would sell one of them. But if you want to prolong your team and want to wildcard in a later window, then I think taking the hit makes sense because it sets you up for the long term.
Watkins over Mateta for me. He won't play 90, but I think we might get another goal.
Yeah, Isak to Watkins, Mateta or Solanke. I'm literally in this situation, Sally, and I still don't know the answer to it. It's the more I think about it, it's going to be Solanke or Mateta for me personally.
Big man, Harvey Barnes or Bowen? Two players we've not spoken about today, and two very good picks, I think.
I would go with Bowen because of the fact that he's more nailed to play most games. There's always Murphy lurking for Harvey Barnes, so I won't go there. Best Villa defender, Gianni.
Shop elsewhere at 4.5 million. Go to a team like Forest or Brentford. I don't buy into the Villa good games. They concede. I know they didn't against Young Boys, but I don't love them. And you could go Pau Torres if you want.
I don't know if you saw Young Boys, mate, but they are absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Like in the Premier League, Villa aren't keeping clean sheets.
Absolutely. Whose one is this? Jota to Mbeumo?
You, I think, yeah.
I don't think I would do that. No, I mean I can understand the thought around it, but I don't think I would do Jota and Mbeumo. I'd stick with Jota.
Start Nketiah or Smith Rowe. That's a tricky one.
Good question. That's a very hard one.
That's a very tricky one. I think I would go with Nketiah personally.
He did score in the week, which is good to see.
Very tough one. Yeah, very tough one though, and one which could backfire. But I think both are good players, so yeah, I'd go with Nketiah.
And again, this is a hard one. I actually would go Rico Lewis, but many would tell you Robinson. So, Danny, that's a tough one. I mean, I am Robinson, and it's an all right fixture, but Newcastle often score. Last question from JR, -4 to get Salah in. Only if you're captaining him for me. Dean, what do you reckon? If you're going to captain him, then maybe.
Yeah, you have to captain him. You've got to go all in if you're going to do it. It probably is kind of worth it because everybody and their grandma are going to be captaining Salah this weekend. So if you don't have Salah at all, you are at risk of losing massive ground, I think, this week.
Yeah, we saw that last week for those that didn't have Haaland. It was a guaranteed red arrow. Guys, thank you so much for watching. There's over 400 of you watching right now. Please do hit that like button. If you're just joining, though, go back and watch the last hour. It's been a really good show. And if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button because we do these live streams and we involve you guys a ton on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. CGA should be your home of FPL. There's loads to check out in the members area as well if you want to check out the join button below. And we will see you on Monday for hopefully a very smiley stream where we're all happy, we're all playing our wild cards, and we're all on some big fat juicy arrows. But for now, he's been Dean, he's been Big Man, I've been Gianni, and we've been chasing green arrows. Bye-bye.